Welcome to WLPN LP 105.5 Lumpin' Radio. I am Jordan Esparza Kelly, your host on the first and third Sunday of every month at 4 p.m. You are tuning into Frontline Youth, a radio show focused on youth activism in Chicago and the greater United States. We have a great conversation in store for you all today, and I want to open by reading some of the Palestinian Campaign for the Academic and Cultural Boycott of Israel, PACBI's, statement on Boiler Room's endorsement of the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanction Movement, aka the BDS Movement, which seeks to organize against institutions having economic ties to Israel, effectively keeping the colony afloat. The Palestinian Campaign for the Academic and Cultural Boycott of Israel welcomes the leading dance music platform Boiler Room announcing its support of the BDS guidelines for the international cultural boycott of Israel and distancing itself from the complicit Israeli investments of private equity firm KKR, which owns Boiler Room's parent company, Superstruct Entertainment. PACBI, a founding member of the BDS National Committee, the largest Palestinian coalition that leads the global BDS movement, calls on all other Superstruct-owned live music events to distance themselves from KKR's investments in Israel's complicit tech sector. All festivals and companies owned by Superstruct Entertainment are clearly implicated in parent company KKR's complicity in Israel's genocide and underlying regime of settler colonial apartheid, albeit through no fault of their own. Regardless, they therefore have an undeniable and profound ethical obligation to urgently take a clear stance against that complicity. I'm joined live in studio with DJ Nanoos, fresh off a sold-out show right down the street here in Ramova and fresh off tour. How you doing?
I'm doing super well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm really happy to have you here with me. I think it was really important to get your insight out of everybody's on this matter, because as you know, on the internet there's like a million opinions at once, and mostly none of them are coherent at all. So I'm happy to have you join me. With all the talk around, Boiler Room's recent developments, I want to know, like, what are your thoughts after listening to just a part of that? The statement, I just want to say the statement is much longer. I wasn't going to read you guys a full web page right here on the radio, but that is the opening and bulk summation of the statement. What do you think when you're hearing that?
I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. I think that a lot of other forms of arts, like music festivals and things like that, should definitely follow suit. And it's really, really great to hear. And I think that this is information that more people should be aware of when it comes to Boiler Room, because there are a lot of like super reactionary commentary and a lot of like, putting artists in this like different pedestal than like other people. So I think that it's definitely a really good and important step in the right direction. And there's more to be done and more to be said, for sure. Yeah,
with you saying, I mean, obviously until things are returned to a fully liberated standpoint, there's a lot to be done in many different sectors. But what does a company with complicated ties, such as a Boiler Room or even a Ben & Jerry's, adopting BDS practices, mean to you, say to you?
Like I said, it's, again, like a step in the right direction, especially for art. Like, I always say, like, for my art and my music, not to be passive when it comes to Zionism and to be active and not just say, no homophobia, sexism, whatever it is on the dance floor, but the fact that there should be no Zionism on the dance floor, like to normalize no violence on the dance floor in any manner. And so I think them adopting this practice of removing themselves from shows in Israel and no longer doing boiler rooms in Israel, for example, is extremely important, because it is telling the world that this does not belong here in the arts and in the music. It does not belong. And again, there's definitely more to be said and more to be done, but this is the first step.
Isn't that like absolutely terrifying, y'all, that in certain places there could be Zionism on the dance floor and people are like okay with that, right? To a certain extent, because we've seen even up until recently, which obviously was kind of the triggering point for this statement and for Boiler Room to even get in touch with the BDS movement at all. We've seen pretty much until now a complicity in the colony itself. People are hosting events. They're doing music festivals there, right? A lot of things. We've even had artists from Chicago, which has kind of been part of their own radicalization arcs, such as No Name, who've, gone to Tel Aviv, perform, and then came back like, yo, that was crazy. I didn't know nothing about what was happening over there. Now that y'all tell me, yeah, that is wild. What is some of your reactions, I guess, when you see this being a main topic from a lot of your peers, and also kind of seeing the other side of it, which is a lot of incoherent reactionary opinions? What kind of comes to mind for you?
I think a lot of it is that when the internet is a strange place, first of all, let's
The
just
strangest.
say the internet is an extremely strange place, especially when it comes to boycotting, activism, and things like that. I feel like we're all really trying to put it together, which is a good thing, but I feel like we're not putting it together. People aren't like putting two and two together, and so when we see that, okay, Boiler Room is owned by this parent company, that's it, boom, we're done, cut it all off. And that sentiment, as it makes sense, right? Like, we don't want to give money to Israel. Like, I am not saying I want to give money to Israel at all. That's not the point. It's just, I feel like these sentiments are coming from people who are not artists themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's not coming from artists themselves, they're putting us on such high pedestals of we should be the ones that are perfect in terms of where our money is going, where things are going, how we do things, how we boycott, how we divest, how we do all these things has to be in this perfect line. And if we don't do that, we're canceled. And I feel like it's just not a fair sentiment to make. We live in apocalyptic capitalism, essentially. Things are falling apart before our eyes. And as much as people see DJing and they see me having a good time and they see us having a good time, my art and my music is still my job. I have to commodify it because of the state of where we're in capitalism. Art is not just a hobby anymore. I have to get up and I have to do things to make money, to make a living. I still have rent to pay.
Right.
So when people put such high pressure on us, it just, in the state of the world, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense right now. And I feel like we should be putting that equal pressure on all of us. This selective activism for artists is just getting a little bit too far for me, I believe.
Yeah, not to call you out, but before the show, when we were this expectation of perfection for artists is crazy, and people are not really comparing this to doctors, lawyers, people who definitely have more consistent and more money, right? Mm-hmm. It's not being applied to them. These expectations are not being followed through on to everybody. Mm-hmm. And I think that itself would be a cultural shift. Mm-hmm. What if it applies to everybody, right? Then we're saying that there's no place for this thing in our society.
Exactly.
But when you're saying, oh, artists shouldn't do that, artists shouldn't do this, etc., you're saying, well, there's no place for this in art, but it can actually live in a few other places. How unfair is that? It's ridiculous almost.
It's ridiculous, and also even if we want to put, all artists on this pedestal that we should be boycotting Boiler Room, fine. However, the burden of it all always falls back on Black and brown women in the community. There are so many other people with such a big platform who do multiple Boiler Rooms in a singular year. I'm talking multiple. Let's focus that pressure to step down and make a statement on them? Why is like the brunt of it always on like the black and brown women in the community who, when we do get on Boiler Room, like when I was in Boiler Room for Montreal last year in May, we were on the mic like Free Palestine. I was playing Palestinian music. Like we had the flags, we had the kufiyas. We made sure that that room knew where we stood and where we belonged. I don't feel like that intense pressure should fall back on us. Like let's do it to everybody.
Yeah. I think too, you also bring up the topic of finances, which, you know, with my background in being an artist as well, it's hard to balance an artist's checkbook. Like it oftentimes doesn't. You're oftentimes running at a loss. And even just taking your specific situation, like you just self-financed the tour. You just, you know, all these things though. But you know, there's other artists that are self-financing a tour and they're self-financing merch and they're, you know, all the things that come into being an actual independent artist do not usually equate to having very profitable margins.
I lost a lot of money on this tour, I'm not gonna lie. People see, you know, the shows and the people and the outfits and all that, and they think it's all like glitz and glam, and it's definitely not. Like, I lost a lot of money doing this, but I don't regret like a single bit of it. And, you know, bringing up finances, it happened in DC, where I was being pressured by multiple people and organizers, again, rightfully so, like no shade to anything, but being pressured of like, hey, donate 50% of your proceeds to da-da-da-da-da, which, okay, is great, but hi, hello, my name is Nanoos, what's your name? Like, I feel like people are just like, so like, all right, you're an artist, you're doing a show, well, I don't really know who you are, but donate all this money. It's like, okay, I understand like where you're coming from, but like, I am not even making profit to give you.
Yeah.
I'm not making that profit. And again, it's like, who is this pressure going on? Because I could name a lot of artists in the DJ and music world, which I won't, who do make a lot more money than myself. I don't even want to call me like working class artist. I don't even know what the term would be.
Yeah, I mean, artists though in
it kind of is though, right? Like,
yeah, I think it's hard to define our socioeconomic statuses as artists, because I think
it's like in and out
people
constantly.
think if we don't have to work 9 to 5, then we're just like these super free beings.
Right? Yeah, we're definitely not.
Oh, you got it.
People think I just DJ on the weekends, like at night, and that's it. Monday through Friday, I don't do anything. I'm like, I wish that was the case.
Right.
I literally quit my 9 to 5 to work 24/7. That's what I did.
Yeah, but that's what people don't know.
Yeah, but anyways, like there's so many more like well-off artists that could be donating 10% of their proceeds. But why is the pressure always on like...
And 10% of their proceeds might be better than your 50%.
I don't even have 50%. When she asked me that, I was like, I don't even have 50.
You're like, you don't even want this 50.
Yeah, you don't want this. It's a loss.
Yeah,
you want this 50% loss?
Yeah. That's, you know, that is the craziest thing about it too, because I think where we're, like what you're getting at, where we're applying pressure in these situations is firstly reactionary, right? When we should be molding out holistic, I don't want to say solutions, but guidelines that are very widely applicable across a spectrum that people can pick up and then practice in their everyday lives. Because what about these ticket companies, these venues, these promotional organizations and stuff like that have cultural power, but also could have cultural or economic ties and interests to Israel. Are we demanding they donate? Are we, you know, do we know who owns a lot of the places that we go to? We don't ask ourselves a lot of these things in our everyday lives. Why? Because we're normal people, probably with just like the hope that when you go to a restaurant, they're not caught up in a whole genocide and like funding it, things like that, right? Yeah. I think that's a normal thought for a person to want to have, right?
Exactly.
But then the other side of that is again, it's being placed on, the burden of responsibility is being placed on people who actually have the least wiggle room and the least to give, not even financially, but sometimes even from a capacity of lifestyle, you know? I think it's interesting that there isn't mass, and when we use the word boycotts, it's definitely been kind of distorted in the past year and a half, right? Because the worse things get, pretty much the more reactionary things get as well. So with, again, the statement that I read earlier in this segment was coming from PACBI, who is a founding member of the BDS movement. And the BDS movement is a coalition of groups that name the targets of the boycotts. And they name the most essential targets to have the best impact at critical times, whenever that may be. And then people are like, oh, well, just kind of ignore them. I mean, there's been a lot of talk, and I'm sure you see it in comments for other DJs and whatnot, where I'm sure you can read some of these things and be like, where are you getting that from as a strategy? What informed you? But the answer is nothing. They kind of felt a thing and thought about it themselves, and now they're just going off.
Again, rightfully so. Like, we understand, like, listen, like, I am very upset by this, like, parent company thing. But it feels like something we can't escape, and not to say it as, like, an excuse or, like, okay, well, there's no escape, so let's just do whatever we want. That is not what we're saying, but there needs to be more, like, holistic, like you said, approaches to our daily lives, and, like, less policing, less stress on the artists. Like, let's calm it down, because, you know, most of these comments of people, you know, telling everyone who's ever done a boiler room, like, remove that off your page, or denounce boiler room, or never do a boiler room again, are working like 9-to-5s in tech. Yeah. I guarantee the tech company you work for is doing way worse. I guarantee it. So it's just like, everyone wants to be like, follow the money, follow the money. I feel like, I'm sorry, in 2025, if we follow the money, it's, unfortunately, it's all going to lead back to the same place. This jacket is probably going to lead back to the same place. It's real. This phone that y'all commenting on. Yeah, Congo, like. Instagram. All that. Yeah. You want to follow the money, then follow the money. Then that means you just got to be a caveman at this point. Like, how can we, and again, I don't have the solution, so maybe we can, like, talk about that. Yeah. But, and there might not even be a solution, like, but daily things, like daily practices, daily ways that we can change this and, like, remove pressure and try to build together instead of policing and shutting out and canceling artists, like, so quick. I've seen it, like, a lot lately. Yeah. I think that's a great point. Like, first of all, if you do work in tech, don't be telling me how to boycott. Like, bro, quit your job. Yeah. It's like people are telling us essentially quit your job. Yeah. Or like so when people are telling us stop doing these festivals, these boiler rooms, this and that, they don't realize that is our job. You're telling us to quit our job, our 9-to-5. I'm not sitting here telling Amazon workers quit your job. I'm not sitting here telling you quit your job. I'm not doing that because I understand the place of which we're in, like I do, and it's just hard because people also don't understand, like, how these small instances of various festivals and things change the whole trajectory of our career. So, but yeah. Yeah, and it's also a problem when referencing back a phrase that you just used a few minutes ago, apocalyptic capitalism, which is very true when you think about it, because there is becoming less and less ways for artists in general to make money outside of corporate structures. And I think for me, one point that I think about from a timeline perspective was 2020, when we had like large mass protesting in response to the murder of George Floyd. I saw a lot of my artistic peers like buddying up with gigantic companies such as Nike and things like that, which kind of were almost like hijacking people with revolutionary influence
and then turning them into like representation mouthpieces for capitalism, you know? And I think since that point, we've seen it go in such an accelerated fashion where, you know, I'm a person with a little bit of experience in the music industry, and we have so many artists that are like, you can't make a living off streaming. So now music has almost been completely devalued. And then the best way to make money as a musician is sync licensing with big companies. And then it's like, what are the big companies doing? Oh, they're stealing water from a remote village in Mexico. Great. You know, it has been this big, terrible thing that really, if anything, I think highlights the wealth gap, because if it is so hard to get money at a low level and you have to get to such a high level to acquire more funding, more money, higher paying gigs as an artist, whichever art that may be, that speaks to the disparity in wealth. How there is so many people that are really part of this 99 to 1% dynamic and dilemma. You know, we can't. It's very hard to tell artists who aren't funded, really, for the most part. We don't have large artist funding in the U.S. And I always state this like every other show, because we get to talking about a lot of different issues, domestic and global. I'm mostly talking to problems in the U.S. because that's my personal experience. It's hard for me to speak outside of that, right? But we have here the gigantic record label industry. You do a good song, next thing you know, it's in a Coke commercial, and it's like you don't even want to know what that's like a part of.
Our music on Spotify and Apple.
Yeah, right,
I
exactly.
already know that's not good. If I start looking into that, oh Lord.
Well, Spotify was one of the early people like flagged for, you know, either selling data or selling data to or being invested in defense like companies, which is crazy. It's like I can't even listen to, you know, my favorite album without funding Lockheed Martin, bro. Like, literally, like this is kind of the state of things where we're at, where we have huge corporate like rule of government, like a completely corporatized federal government, and that creates. I think a lot of people think that like people can kind of dictate an economy, but in something as big as America, it's like the economy often dictates our culture, our social culture. So with that, yes, you're listening to music through an app that is invested in weapons companies that makes bombs that are essentially killing people right now for $5.99 a month. Like,
and most of the sentiment too is like coming from like non-Palestinians in my case, like, and it's like, to your point, like, how do you think I feel? Like, I can't even do anything without funding my own people's death. Like, I understand, like, so it's just a lot. And I understand people's emotions. It's just like the selective activism like has to change. Like, we have to figure it out. We have to switch the pressure like another way, because if I got a Boiler Room gig tomorrow and me, like, I don't have the biggest platform. I know y'all love me in Chicago, but I don't have the biggest platform. Let's say I got a Boiler Room offer tomorrow and I declined it. Personally, I don't think it would make that much of an impact. I'm just saying, I'm not saying I would take it, but I would say me denying it and like taking it down, okay, like, they gonna continue doing what they doing. How are we pressuring the people who actually have a platform to do and say something and make a change? Because people listen, like, people love artists. Like, I know people put us on like a pedestal, but that is because they love us and they appreciate us. And it's like, so let's switch that pressure over to people who do have more power and more say and more involved in with the venues, with the big festivals, the corporations, stuff like that. Like, let's talk to them. Yeah.
Do you think kind of the visibility that is inherent as an artist, as opposed to the kind of privacy of these companies, plays a role in like where pressure gets put.
Definitely, especially as a Palestinian artist, because I am Palestinian, of course. People put more pressure on me because I'm the visible one. I'm the one making the music. I'm the one getting on the mic and saying free Palestine or doing this and this and that. And so the pressure is on. I'm right there. I'm in your face. You're coming to my shows. But yeah, like people don't know all the other aspects that go into like the music industry. And again, people don't know my personal life. They don't know what I do with my personal money, how I donate, how I do things. I'm just not making a profit off this DJing stuff. But everything else I decide to do, and the people just don't know. So it's like, I don't know, like the canceling is crazy to me.
And I think that's interesting, too, what you say about the stuff that people don't know, because as somebody who knows you, outside of the context of us speaking into this microphone right now, I know that for a long time, close to 2 years now, you have been donating a lot of your time and resources to cultural events across Chicago.
For free?
DJing for free, equipment for free, all kinds of things to help aid fundraising and sometimes just to give people a good time too. Like these are things that I know of you to have personally been involved in, and I think people.
And that's why the internet is a strange place.
Yeah, it's so selective because people will say like, "Do what you can," and then get mad at you doing what you can.
Right.
So it's like you really can't. It's so impossible to please everybody. But this is also I think more than being a people pleaser, doing what people want you to do, I think this is a problem with having incoherent politics in like a society-wide ban. You know, like people do not have well-informed opinions that would say, oh, okay, you know, like I get that. No, people are very like reactionary, like you said, the canceling and things of that nature, when they could just spend more time having a more well-developed opinion that would lead them to a lot better answers than yelling at potentially DJ Nanoos in her comments like, girl, you need to do, you know?
And thankfully, like, I don't really get a lot of that. I feel like I do try to be as authentic as I can be. But when it comes to this boiler room situation, it definitely is the elephant in the room. Like, even though a lot of, like, you know, this talk is not on the internet, a lot of us artists, like, we are talking about it in our day-to-day lives. Like, for example, there's this Detroit DJ that I love dearly. He's a Black Detroitian, born and raised. He called me up the other day. He was like, listen, like, I got this gig opportunity for Boiler Room Detroit, but they killing babies. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, tell me what I should do. And we spoke about it, and essentially I told him I will never tell any artist what to do or what not to do. But we kind of broke it down, and he was like, you know, I would donate all my money, which for people who don't know, Boiler Room does not pay like that. They are not paying. They are not paying. They are not paying. So he was like, you know, I'll donate all this money to Gaza. I'm going to get on the mic. We're going to make sure that everybody knows what's up. And I was like, that's great. Like, thank you for doing that. And also, like, you know, to tell people, like, Boiler Room Detroit, for example, like, those organizers that work for Boiler Room Detroit are way different, for example, than Boiler Room Chicago. And yes, we have these, like, big parent companies, but we also have real people working in these cities who do various things and, as we read in the statement, like, are adopting these BDS practices. And Boiler Room Detroit, they put on for Detroit. They put on for those DJs and those locals. And those people in Detroit, they deserve that. They deserve that spotlight and that trajectory. And I will never tell any of them not to take that opportunity. Insofar as long as, you know, the BDS practices are obviously, like, put into place. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank y'all for tuning in with us. This is WLPN LP Chicago, 105.5 FM, Lumpin' Radio. We are going to head into a little break, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We're still hanging here with DJ Nanoos. This is WLPNLP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpin' Radio. And for those who haven't been here for the past 30 minutes, we've been discussing Boiler Room, boycotting, and kind of the ethics and burdens of boycotting as an artist in this world. And a lot of this conversation is stemming from the recent PACBI statement on Boiler Room adopting BDS practices as they've found out and were confronted by their parent company being connected to the colony of Israel. And I wanted to kind of go down the statement. I only read the brief intro of it, but I want to read to you all another part of this statement that I found to be really, really, really cool, because I think that we do live with sometimes a discouraged state, because it seems like the things that we face are very big. But PACBI, which again I want to reiterate, PACBI is the Palestinian Campaign for the Academic and Cultural Boycott of Israel, and they are a main member of the BDS coalition, okay? And they note a win in this statement. So check this out. PACBI states, the founder of Tel Aviv's most prominent club, Tel Aviv, Israel, most prominent club, The Block, admitted to a German researcher in 2022 that the hashtag DJs for Palestine boycott campaign led to a downward trend. BDS became stronger. Suddenly, the DJs who used to play with us didn't want to play anymore. He added, since the emergence of BDS in the scene, nobody writes about us anymore. The Block permanently shut down soon after, following 14 years of operation. Before its closure, its founder had spoken of the club's importance for Israel's reputation in the world, as so significant to whitewashing Israel's regime of colonial oppression against the Palestinians that the Hezbollah propaganda branch of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has chosen it to represent the state of Israel in official material. A Tel Aviv judge agreed, linking the international reputation of the apartheid city to the Block's prominence and continuation. Wow. There's just, first of all, there's a lot in there. And while it's also, it's great to note a victory, it's also really eerie, right? Because you're saying that this club is marked by the Israeli government as being essential to upholding the colony and essential to creating a normalized image of the state of Israel. So before our break, when we spoke about there sometimes being Zionism on the dance floor, it was over there on that dance floor. And it was contributing to creating an image of Israel that it's a normal place where people can just go and hit the club, and they're bringing artists there and you know, things like that. So what kind of, I guess, message does that make you want to send to perhaps your artist peers that have recently done stuff there or are thinking about doing stuff there? Obviously not that venue because it shut down, alhamdulillah. But, you know, there's definitely people still considering doing shows there. Right,
and I don't know if you remember, but in August of 2023, I played in occupied Palestine as well. So I played in Haifa. It was Palestinian-owned venue, but it's in the occupied land. It's in Haifa. So when I was about, this just came up to my mind, but when I was about to play, there were so many Israelis that came up to me knowing that I was Palestinian, knowing how the event was marketed, and we're like, oh my God, we're so excited to see you. And I'm looking at them like, what? Like, it's just, I was so confused. But anyways, that brought up that experience for me, which was extremely weird because, yes, music and dance and all that stuff is central to them over there because they need any form of art and culture to feel real. Like, they need that. And so my message to my peers in the States, and this is why, like, ever since October 7th, I have been pressuring some DJs and deciding not to work with some DJs who haven't even made any kind of implication that they are a DJ against apartheid, colonialism, against what is happening. There's a whole, like, DJs Against Apartheid collective that's based out of New York, and, you know, inshallah, I will be able to host them and bring them over, and we can bring this discussion here as well. We've been talking about it, but we need more artists to take a stand and say, especially with global parties and things like that happen in the city, you know, instead of just those messages that are like, you know, no homophobia, no violence, you know, all are welcome on the dance floor. No, unfortunately, not all should be welcome on the dance floor.
Yeah.
We need to be specific here. Zionism is not allowed on this dance floor, and we need to normalize that, because that will change the culture here, which will change the culture there, which it has. We're seeing that in that what you just said. So I urge everyone just to take that just one more step forward, and it'll make a difference for sure.
Yeah, and that is what you're talking about is the necessary shift that has to happen in our language and then subsequently our culture that will stigmatize Zionism.
We need it stigmatized.
Exactly, because when we say no racism on the dance floor, people generally know what that means, but I think it's also important to include Zionism because we should be against all forms of racism. We shouldn't be, you know, selecting which flavor of racism is okay for the dance floor. That's really ridiculous. So DJs, when you're considering perhaps doing a Tel Aviv show or something like that, you are also, this is the part that a lot of people don't think of. You're also allowing a genocidal colony to hijack your culture, your likeness, your social influence, and use you singularly
as a puppet, essentially.
Yeah, exactly, to help it stand up, right? Your image helps a colony stay intact. I don't think I could do that personally, and I don't think enough artists are thinking about it in that way. A lot of artists are thinking about the check, obviously, and we've gone over a million reasons why artists are thinking about the check, but as artists, we also need to be more intentional thinkers and more critical thinkers, because the same way that you maybe wouldn't repost just anybody who tags you, this, and that, is the same kind of things where you need to be thinking, should I let this show, this venue, this promoter use my likeness? And if there's Zionism involved, you should not. And if there's homophobia involved, you should not. If there's racism involved, you should not. You know, we've been in the Latino community, we've been having a lot of talks about these people who may or may not from our community support Trump. And we're like, no, like, let's not support them anymore. All these things need to be applied equitably.
Yeah.
Like, we can't do it selectively. Again, the burden always falls on the artists.
Always. And like black and brown women to be to be fair. And you know, to your point, like, we were talking about how it is a job, and I do have to make money to take my rent, but that does not mean like I'm senselessly just taking any check, and that does not mean that any DJs and artists should be taking any checks. Like, DJing is not this senseless thing. When we get up there and we play music, we are telling people what we believe in through our music. If I get up on there and I start playing R. Kelly, what does that say?
Right.
That sends a message. There's a message there. There's always a message there. And so we need to be particular and intentional about our music and our sets, especially when we play, for example, like global music or music that comes from black and brown communities. Like, there are real people with real hands that have made the music that we play. So we need to make sure that we're honoring them and bringing it back to them. Like, it's not senseless. Like, it's a practice, it's a work, it's intentional. And I feel like that's why people really appreciate my DJing and my work. And I haven't gotten, too much pressure, because people see the authenticity of what I'm trying to bring to the table. Is that every set is a message. Yeah. Every single one.
Talk to us a little bit about, being on tour and going across the U.S. How were you received in different cities? Because I know we've stated here on the show before that Chicago has a huge Palestinian and Arab presence in our city, in the surrounding suburbs. Not every city in America has that. So how were you, received in some of these places? Good, bad, or how'd it go?
I mean, definitely good. And all the promoters that I worked with, I selected them. I reached out to them, like people that I knew that loved my vision and wanted to work with me. Like, people have been asking me, like, how did you do a 10-city tour with no team, no manager, no nothing? And I've been saying, my community and people who trust and value my vision. You have to have a strong, clear vision, and if you do, people who believe in that will want to follow suit with you, and that's what I've been doing. Anytime that I wanted to promote my event to a venue, I would say, listen, I'm a Palestinian, Armenian DJ. This is the Musiqet Baladi tour. This is what it stands for. Are you down? Yes or no? And alhamdulillah, like, I've gotten a lot of great, amazing feedback. And there's a lot of Palestinians in Chicago, but when I went to New York and LA, there were a lot of Armenians that popped out. There were a lot of black folk that popped out in New York, a lot of Latinos in New York. Like, it was a very big, I feel like my crowd is, like, very mixed. And I feel like because people understand the message, because the message is not just I'm an Arab DJ that plays Arab music. It's way more than that. And people love that. They love when they see music that has meaning. And in a world full of a lot of art and a lot of senseless art, the ones that I feel like are going to keep it pushing are the ones that attach meaning to their work.
Yeah. Was there any cities that maybe surprised you just in general by their presence? Like, oh, I didn't know like y'all were this lit out here, anything like that?
Vancouver, the indigenous community in Vancouver is extremely large. Like, they're in there, and there were a lot of like indigenous Canadians at my sets. Like mostly the entire set, like 50% were indigenous Canadians, and it was just amazing to be able to talk with them about Palestine and dig deep into that, and honestly dig deep into the anti-indigenous violence in Canada and how, the arts like helps us all come together. Like, that was actually like one of my favorite cities was Vancouver.
That's so interesting that you bring that up. I have a friend back home who's he's much older. He's a preacher. He's in like his 70s. And he was telling me about how he went on a family trip, but the other side of Canada, I think the Quebec area.
Okay, yeah.
So east side, right?
Yeah.
And he's a black preacher from South Bend, okay? And he was telling me like white Canadians will be very like empathetic towards American like black people, and then like turn around and then say like hateful things towards the indigenous. And he said it was like whiplash. And it was he said that it was so crazy to experience that and see kind of firsthand people talk about another group, like how people would talk about him in maybe Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, in those, places of the deep South.
Yeah, Quebec is a whole nother beast.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the Vancouver side is way different. When I went to Montreal, like, I can't handle them. They're like, French. You only speak French. I'm like, bro, please, Canada, calm down. Like, please calm down. We're not in France. It was weird. Yeah,
I mean, even the politics of language. Oh gosh, I could go for a million years about that, because, I get so much backlash as a Latino who isn't fluent in Spanish, which I'm working on, by the way. Don't be too quick with your comments. I'm working on it, but that's not without letting y'all know that this is a colonial language. Like, Spanish bro, that means it came from Spain, bro. That's not here.
Right.
That's not here. So again, too, like with the people in Canada that are so, feisty about the speaking French, it's like, where does this come from? Why, what are we upholding when we say things like that, right? When I think about this all the time, again, with my community of just like, oh, you're not Mexican for real if you don't speak Spanish. Like, what is that? What does that mean? If we don't speak the language that was trauma beaten into us, then we're not us. I don't know. I don't think that's the right way to go about it.
Yeah.
What I want to kind of leave off here on it and get to know more about with you specifically is, what do you think people could do that could kind of alleviate this pressure from artists to be saints of political principles and whatnot, and just be these people that have to abide by everything? Like, how do you think fans and supporters should more realistically see artists?
That's a really tough question. That's kind of why I wanted both of us to talk about, is because I don't really have, like, the solution as to, like, how to tell people to put less pressure on us without essentially just saying, just put less pressure on us. Like, we are people just like you, and build community with the artists around you. Like, we could be friends, we could chill, we could talk about these things, and we could strategize together. Like I said, I'm really trying to bring the DJs Against Apartheid crew over to Chicago so we can build and have this conversation here, because it does need to be, this, like, collective thing that we do together. But also, like, instead of pressuring DJs and artists who already have such a pro-Palestine stance to not do X, Y, and Z thing, let's pressure our friends and each other who are in the DJ and art community who haven't even made a pro-Palestine stance, period. Let's start there. Let's do that. There's a lot of us. There's a lot of people who have not made a clear stance, and I think that we need to have the conversation continually open. Like, you go to these global parties here, or this DJ that plays this or does that or has this influence in the city. We need to slip in these conversations with each other. We need to start changing and stigmatizing Zionism on the dance floor. Like, let's start with each other, because, again, we are a collective, we are a community, we are people. Like, we're not, like, so far off. I'm not a celebrity. I know y'all like to think I'm a celebrity, but I am not. I am trying my best. I'm going through things, doing things, living my life just like everybody else. And we need to shift that. We need to strategize. And if people want to be a part of that strategy, they need to stop canceling. And they need to try to be a part of these kinds of conversations so we can work together. Because truthfully, I don't know, like, the answers or, like, all of these things that we should do. Because in a way, sometimes when I think about, dude, everything I own leads back to my people's death, like, it does make me feel like a sense of despair. Like, I'm a human too, and not to say that I always feel like, because it's, people have this, like, saying, like, oh, like, we shouldn't be in despair, like, get up and do something. I understand that, but I'm just a person. And, like, I'm seeing 600 plus days of genocide. I'm seeing anything I do leading to my people's death. It's like there's a whirlwind of emotions. And so we're all going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of yap. But yeah.
Not at all too much, though. I 100% feel what you're saying, because I'm one of those people that's, like, a very hardline optimist. But even some days too, I'm like, man, this is so bad. This is so
really bad.
This is so bad. And I think, obviously, I've been, again, we know each other in a personal capacity and have been involved in general organizing in different realms in the past, for at least 5 or 6 years ago, both of us. But I think learning about the Congo, for me, was really just, like, one of the worst kind of awakenings that I had, because it's a lot of stuff comes from that, especially as our global society becomes more technologically advanced. Like, they are mining the Congo to death. And the things that are coming out of there are really terrible. And it's when you look at it, I think if anyone were to truly, in good faith, inform themselves and kind of think about the ROI, the return on investment we get on things, you would say, honestly, the iPhone 16 is not worth that. It's not. The things that we have in this life that stem from so much death and destruction are really not worth it. They're not. I don't need that. Especially, one, I don't need it, probably because we don't need more things. Like, we are a thing society. We love things, everybody. We all have all these things. But then saying, this is how I'm getting my things, I'm good, bruh.
Yeah.
Like, I'm super good.
Yeah.
I don't think enough people are self-educating in that way. And that allows them to still want to take kind of a back seat and
then take it out on artists.
Right, exactly. Someone that they think has more power than them, but
I really don't. I really don't.
Yeah, and I don't know, because also today things are freaky where it's like power is sometimes, at some points, for some people, synonymous with like social influence. But at the same time, we're facing things that like social influence can't fix.
Right.
Like they made LeBron put out that statement. That's when I knew. That was the when, and I already know. I personally, I was like, people probably be mad at me for this, but I didn't even get mad at LeBron because I knew that he didn't know nothing about what is even happening.
Nope.
They gave him a statement. That man is not in the midst of learning about the geopolitical conflict of the Middle East. Like he's just not, and it's like, but these are how things are getting co-opted, being put into society and whatnot. And to summarize what we've been talking about for the past hour, instead of blaming each other, we need a cultural shift that stigmatizes these colonial like externalities. Zionism, stigmatize it. Homophobia, stigmatize it. Racism, stigmatize it. And many other things, anti-immigrant sentiment, stigmatize it. We do need a certain stigma around those things because we have to know that that's not okay in our society. Like we know that it's not okay to do other things. We need to apply that same ideological social pressure.
We need to bring shame back.
Yeah, bring shame, bring healthy shame back.
No, just shame. Just bring shame back.
It's I don't know, it can get kind of wild. I'm not an absolutist. That's my thing. I'm not an absolutist. I'm
Me
like
neither.
like
Yeah.
some people are like free speech absolutists, and I'm like, nah.
I don't want to hear
I'm
all
not.
that.
Yeah, because it's like it don't be good though.
It don't be good.
Like,
no.
People really free today. In today's time, free speech is like something that people are really riding for, but I don't think it's as valuable for it to be absolute as people think. Like, you actually don't want people to say whatever they want to say.
Yeah.
Because
same way you don't actually want to say all are welcome here. No, please. I've never once said in my parties, all are welcome here. And I will never say that.
Yeah.
Because some of y'all are not welcome here.
Yeah. And
we need to be more active. That's what I'm saying. Like, less passivism, or whatever the word is. Less being passive, more being active and speaking to each other about these things.
And less passive aggressiveness too.
Yes.
While we're
less
at
passive
it,
aggressiveness.
let's severely, tone it down.
Tone it down.
But thank you all for joining us, and I encourage you all to actually go read the full statement by, again, the Palestinian Campaign for the Academic and Cultural Boycott of Israel, PACBI. It is on the BDS website. It is just available there to read. it was very informative, I think, even for me to kind of understand how people who started organizing for this purpose are viewing really the construct of capital today. Again, Boiler Room is owned by somebody that's owned by somebody. And so they're like third generation complicit.
Yeah, third generation complicit. And I will say, like, if artists who do believe in a free Palestine do get offered boiler rooms and you want to take it, and you have been saying free Palestine, you've been throwing the kufiyas up, I do want to say, though, I better see you putting that same energy in boiler room. And I feel like people are, and I feel like people should continue to do that, because if, you want to be about it, then be about it. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, that's definitely the other part. Don't, clean up the activism once you get the boiler room call.
Exactly. Don't do that. Be unapologetic.
We actually need you to double down.
We need you to double down.
We need you to go harder.
Yeah.
But yeah, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from this statement. I mean, one thing just to note that people can also find in the statement when you go read it is, this BDS movement pushed South by Southwest to divest from things that were linked to the military.
Yeah, I saw that.
And in Israel as well. So it's like this is a very powerful tool.
It is.
And I think that it can actually help more than Palestine.
Yeah.
It can help a lot of places, again, if we just get on the same page and we're strategic and we apply principles widely. I think that we can make a shift in our society. But we got to get out the IG comments with it.
We got to get out the IG comments. Go to DJsAgainstApartheid.com. Read up on that as well. It's a great resource. Sign it and stay involved.
Yeah. Stay involved, y'all. Keep your minds busy and your hearts open. All right. Thank you all for joining us. This has been another episode of Frontline Youth on WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpin' Radio. I'm your host, Jordan Esparza Kelly, and I will be talking to y'all again in 2 weeks from now. Thank you so much.